Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you're coming from us from Australia or New York or Canada, wherever you might be coming from, thank you again for being a part of our Reactor community events. Today we have Sidney Andrews once again returning to present on how .NET has transformed teaching and demoing code. This session should be approximately 30 minutes with a Q&A at the end, but feel free to pose questions throughout the session. There is a slight delay with our video feed reaching attendees, about 20 seconds. So certainly feel free to pose the questions and just expect that there might be a little bit before you get a response. Questions can be dropped in the chat window, and then we will hopefully have the opportunity to respond and help you out through your .NET adventures. At this point, I'd like to give the floor to Sidney for him to step in.
Hey, Rebecca, thank you so much again for the wonderful introduction. Hey, everyone. Sidney Andrews, I'm an Azure MVP. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I've been teaching .NET in Azure for many moons, and it's always been challenging. We have situations where we come into the classroom and people have different versions of .NET. People may have one thing installed and not another thing installed, and all the solutions in the past to try and solidify things. How we give demos at conferences, how we teach people .NET in the classroom, not just a professional classroom. How do you teach .NET to middle school and high school students? All of these had difficult answers. We built entire sites just to teach you a couple lines of C#. For the professional classroom, we would deploy massive virtual machines and Hyper-V infrastructure just so you can do Hello World in C#. In conferences, we would rent you Azure machines so you could just do a really simple demo because you wanted to play around with the new Azure SDK for, I don't know, Cosmos DB or storage. So it's always been a pain point to introduce new people to .NET and C#, and it's always been something that's been kind of in the back of everyone's mind. This has got to get better. Well, fear not. The .NET product team has been working really hard on this, and they actually have a whole team within them, embedded within them, that's working specifically on making .NET both more accessible, easier to demo, and easier to teach. And as a developer, this also has some side effect benefits of making your dev life easier. You know, if you're working on a legacy project versus a current project, you have to switch versions of .NET. Can that process be smoothed out in a way that's satisfying? So, short time window today, so I'm going to just be completely interactive. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I see in the Q&A, and I'm going to post lots of links. But my goal today is to show you, just in the last year of effort, what has changed in .NET and how we're using it already in the classroom. Specifically, we have a Azure developer class that supports the Azure developer certification. And a lot of times we don't want people to spend 20 minutes setting up a C# or project just to learn 3 lines of the Azure Storage SDK code. So we were motivated to really implement a lot of these practices and tools immediately. So without further hesitation, I'd like to just jump in. The very first thing I like to show you is how do you find out what's new in .NET? Now, you probably heard at conferences, just go on GitHub and look at the issues. But if you're new to GitHub, or especially if you're new to Microsoft repos, it can be daunting to go into, let's just do github.com/.net, to go to the .NET organization, and then go to, let's see. I don't know if I want to show you the SDK or the runtime repo. Let's do the SDK repo. So here we go, 28 pull requests, 1,400 issues, 2 projects. Let's see. Let's just jump in. Lots of issues. But I just want to find out what's new in .NET. How would I navigate this? Well, fortunately, they actually published this onto docs.com, so docs.com. And as always, if you're having trouble seeing any of your code or the browser, just pop it in the Q&A, and I'm happy to zoom in even further. So I went to docs.com, docs.com. This takes me to the Microsoft Docs landing page. From here, I can go to all sorts of different topics. If you've ever seen me talk about Azure, you see me click on the Azure button over here. But today, we're going to click on the .NET button. That's going to take me to the .NET landing page. There's all sorts of stuff you can learn. What's new in .NET, what's new in C Sharp. I'm interested in what's new in C Sharp. So we're going to go, well, actually, before I show you that, let me show you what's new in .NET. I'm going to click what's new in .NET and tells me, hey, here's all the stuff that's changing in .NET. What happened in August 2020? Well, here's all the things that's changed. Pretty cool. But going back, the thing I really want to show you, that's a little sidebar, is how do I find out what's new in C Sharp? So I go to the languages area where I have a landing page for F Sharp, a landing page for Visual Basic, and a landing page for C Sharp. I'm going to click that one. This takes me to the C Sharp documentation. Specifically, there's a section here on the menu bar, what's new in C Sharp. So if I click what's new in C Sharp 9, the upcoming version of C Sharp that's in release candidate right now, this is where I can figure out what's changed in the language. Today, I want to show you one that has completely transformed the way we teach, and that's top-level statements. So if you are building a basic console application, maybe you're learning a new SDK, or maybe you're downloading a new library, maybe just want to scratch out an idea. I don't know if anybody here ever used something like LinkPad. You kind of get the idea already. I just want a scratch pad where I can try stuff out, and I don't want all the ceremony. I love to use this word here, ceremony, involved in a console application. So if I just want to print to the console hello world, why not just print to the console hello world? Or even if I don't want to add in a using block, let's use the full namespace, system.console.writeline, hello world. So top level statements allow you to get rid of the ceremony as long as you are willing to accept some defaults. Or you always hear about configuration over, oh, the word's escaping me right now. Configuration versus, somebody might get this to me in the Q&A, but right now I kind of missed it. It's like there's default. So let me show you what this looks like. So I am going to open my Windows terminal. I'm going to go to my downloads folder. That's where I like to work. I don't know why. I'm going to make a new directory called C Sharp, and then just jump into that directory. Now I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. You can just do that by doing code dot. I'm going to show you some preview features of Visual Studio Code today, later. So I'm just going to get used to this. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code Insiders, and that dot just means open it in the current directory. So we have Visual Studio Code opened, and I can create a brand new .NET application. How do I do that? Well, I created a CS project file. So I'm going to call this app.csproj, and a project file in .NET is just first your XML project element. And for regular .NET projects, the value of the SDK is going to be Microsoft.NET.SDK. Now, when you do .NET New, it'll do all this for you. I'm going to create a group of properties. And then within this property group, output type, exe, because we want to be able to run this. And then the target framework, we're going to target .NET 5.0. .NET 5.0. That's it. I have a project file. Going to create a new script file. I can call it anything I want. I'll call this reactor.cs. And within the script file, I can start writing some code. So let's see, console system.console.writeline. Hello, Reactor. Save it. Go back to Windows Terminal. Clear my screen so you can see this real good. .NET run. It's going to build since I haven't built yet. And once it's done building, hello, Reactor. So pretty simple so far. And we could do everything else we're used to doing here. So if we wanted to add in a package for NuGet, I'm going to add in a package called colorful.console. It just allows you to write ASCII art to the console. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this. I'm going to clear my screen so we can run this again. I'm going to go back here, delete all of that. I'm going to use a using statement, and I could go using colorful, and then I could say console.writeASCII. Hello, Reactor. Now watch this. Actually, I probably should .NET build this first. I found with OmniSharp, since .NET 5 and C# 9 is so new, OmniSharp needs a little kick in the butt. So you got to build it so OmniShark knows who you're talking about. Let's try it again. Using colorful. There we go. There's my IntelliSense. All right, console.write ASCII hello reactor. There we go. So .NET run. Now, if I just wanted to introduce somebody to this library, that's it. 2 lines of code and we are off to the races. If I want to just try out a new package I've never tried out before, same thing. So let me just show you another example. There's a website called httpbin.org. Allows you to test APIs. And the easiest test you can do is just to issue a GET request to httpbin.org. And it will, if I hit try it out, it will return a response. So nothing too crazy yet. Now, I don't know. I was just playing around on the internet and I heard of a new package called Flurl.http that allows me to issue HTTP requests to a string. And I just want to try it out. Let's just show, I'm just going to show you using Flurl.http. I can build a string httpbin.org. And you're about to laugh at me. Same thing. The C# extension of Visual Studio Code, sometimes I need a little help. Got to build. I keep forgetting to do that. Bad habits, right? I'll do it again using Flurl. HTTPS httpbin.org/get is the endpoint. Flurl.http is the library I pulled. So if I do that, I should be able to say get string async and await that request. You may say, hold on, how are you awaiting this? I don't see an async. Remember I said it has some defaults? It's going to be asynchronous by default. So just imagine everything after you're using blocks is your main method with an asynchronous entry point. So using this await, I should be able to put the JSON into a string. And then I'm going to have some fun with these using blocks. I can say using static system namespace or system.console. So since I'm using system.console statically, I can just put write line JSON. That way I don't have to say console.writeLine. .NET run. And there we go. There's my response from the HTTP request. So that was one of the first big things they did to make it so much easier for me. If I'm on a stage at a conference and I want to get you really excited about the new, let's say the new Azure SDKs. If you haven't checked it out, the Azure team has taken on the task of rewriting all the SDKs across all Azure services. So they have common libraries and common classes, and they'll be named the same. So if you learn one library, you can learn the others pretty quickly, and they will cooperate pretty well. So if I was to come and do a Reactor talk about that, I wouldn't want to have to do like a normal console application where I have to go .NET new console, go in here. There's the main method. Oh, this needs to be asynchronous. Oh, I forgot to add using system.threading.task. And then go in here and maybe create some other classes, write the code. It's just so much ceremony when the point is the same. If you're already a .NET developer, you don't need to know how to create a console application. We also found that if I'm just teaching C# for the very first time to students, getting all of this out of the way and just working on syntax for a couple of months works a whole lot better. And then we can introduce classes and object-oriented programming. But if you have to introduce object-oriented programming in classes first, you just end up with a confused student body. You're like, I don't even know how to make a string. What is a class? It's so much fun. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. I want to give you some links. I'm putting them in the Q&A, basically a link to the What's New for C# 9. And I want to take it a step further. One of the other issues we run into is sometimes when students come into a classroom, they don't have the right version of .NET installed. Now, you can actually find this out. If you have any version of .NET Core or .NET, you can run .NET --list SDKs. It'll tell you all the SDKs you have installed. So I have 3.1, which is the long-term support version, and then 5.0 release candidate 1. Now, what if somebody gave me a project that runs, I don't know, .NET Core 2.1? Well, I don't have that on my machine. One of the cool things is that all these SDKs can run side by side. So on this is my demo machine, but on my personal desktop, I have at least 12 versions of the SDK. It's pretty ridiculous. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to go to .net.microsoft.com. And again, as with everything else, I'm going to put the link in the chat. .netmicrosoft.com is where we can go learn about .NET, get started, and then download it. I'm going to click the download button. It's going to encourage me to either download .NET Core 3.1 or try out the new 5.0 release candidate 1. And I have both of those, so I think I'm good. But if you go down here to the advanced section and click all .NET Core downloads, you can download more versions of .NET Core, including ones that are technically not supported. I want to download .NET Core 2.1. So I'm going to click that. Go in here. I'm running a Windows box. I'm going to download the x64 version. I'm not going to fill out the survey right now. I'm in the middle of a presentation. Maybe later. And then from there, I'm going to just install this in real time. It's not a long install. So I'm going to just hit open file and close Windows Terminal. I'm going to install .NET Core 2.1. And this is the SDK, not the runtime. So this will allow me to dev 2.1 projects. All right, almost there. It's those status bars trick you. They get right to the end and then they pause. They're thinking about it, thinking about it. Come on, you can do it. No, wiggle it around. That makes it go faster. I'm impatient. Let's see if it's installed. So I'm going to open up Windows Terminal again. .NET list SDKs. There we go. 2.1 is installed. So now I can run, or I can develop or run 2.1, 3.1, or 5.0 release candidate 1 packages or projects. So we can run different versions of .NET side by side. So if you come into a classroom or come into a conference and you want to try something hands-on, and we say, well, this requires .NET Core 3.1, and if you don't have it, you can install it. It won't break anything that you already have. The whole idea of side-by-side runtimes is native to .NET. The last thing I really want to show off today is the one I'm most excited about. And it's also the one that's the earliest, so you can laugh a little bit as I show it to you, but that's .NET Interactive. I'll put that link in the chat. So let me show you what that is. Go to github.com, .NET Interactive. .NET Interactive is a way to run .NET embedded somewhere else. Most of the time, the answer is in a browser. And many tools are technically just browsers running desktop applications. So stuff like Visual Studio Code, stuff like the .NET tutorials you do on Microsoft Learn, they need to be able to run .NET client-side in the browser. And that's what .NET Interactive is all about, making it so that .NET can run anywhere. And one of the very first things they implemented was running .NET within Jupyter Notebooks. So if you've ever done any data science before, you've probably seen Jupyter Notebooks. If not, I just put a link in the chat to the Microsoft Learn module on getting started with your very first Jupyter Notebook. And that one's run in Python, but it'll show you everything you need to know about notebooks. Now, with .NET Interactive, essentially, we can run .NET anywhere. So let me just show you an example of what that looks like. So I'm going to go to a Microsoft Learn module called the .NET in-browser tutorial. So if I've never run a console application before a C#, I can actually go in and run my very first console application and go in and it says, all right, say hello Anna instead of hello world. Run my code, and it's all running this client side. It's just crazy. And I'm going to post a link to this tutorial in the chat. I'm posting lots of links. So, it's always fun that way, right? So if we can run .NET in the browser, where else can we run it? Kind of gave you the answer earlier, and that's in Jupyter Notebooks. But then why would I want to run .NET in a Jupyter Notebook? So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code, Insiders Build. I'm going to close the current folder and just open a new folder. Go in my Downloads folder, and I'm going to call this Notebooks. Now, in order to run .NET Interactive within Visual Studio Code, all you need is to go to Extensions and run the install the .NET Interactive Notebooks extension. Now, today, this extension only works in Visual Studio Code Insiders. It's going to move eventually to the regular Visual Studio Code. But if you want to try this out, you got to have the Insiders version running. And you have to have .NET Core 3.1. So what does this do? Well, this allows us to create a notebook. So I'm going to do .NET Interactive, and I'm going to create a new blank notebook. Now, when I create this notebook, I like to save it when I first create it. I'm going to call this colorful .ipynb, and ipynb is the extension for Jupyter Notebooks. Now, this allows me to actually create .NET code and Markdown in a way that people can learn right away. So I can say, header 1, how to use colorful.console. First, download it from NuGet. And I'm just writing in Markdown. So just to show you, I'm going to go to nuget.org, colorful.console. Pull that package and just take that hyperlink and put it right here and here. You see this little check mark? I'm going to click that. And there we go. So if you're thinking about the classroom, you're thinking about like conferences, I can give you a file that's like an interactive worksheet for you to try the code that I just showed off in my conference session. So here I can go R to get a package from NuGet. So we're going to, R means reference. It's a magic command for reference. I'm going to get a package for NuGet, colorful.console. Optionally, I can put a version, but I just want the latest version. So if I run this, it's actually going to NuGet to get this package. So while that's getting the package for NuGet, I can actually go to the next thing. I say, next, you should make it a using static. I know my grammar is not the best here for this. This is what happens when we dev in real time. So using static colorful.console. I'll run that, and now it's actually in the, I like to say the memory, it's not technically accurate, but it's accurate enough for me to understand. All right, next, call the write ASCII method. Write some code, write ASCII, thanks reactor, run it. So window's a little narrow. Let's see if I make the window wider. Does it come out a little better? That's the best it's going to come out. Little text a little narrow. But the point is, we can pull in packages and then create notebooks out of them. This is super interesting because now I can actually give you a file with tons of Markdown, explain what we're going to do, some inline code, and some more Markdown. And you're going to see if you go to that try.net website, that's actually something that you're kind of already seeing. Let me show you an example of a more complex notebook to kind of really nail this point home. So I'm going to go to Storage Blob. I have a notebook that I've been using as an example whenever I talk to anybody on Microsoft's education and learning side about this, because it's kind of hard concept to grasp until you see an example. So I'm going to open. Now you're going to notice this file name is different. Right now, the ipynb extension is locked by the Python extension within Visual Studio Code. So if you have Python and Jupyter Notebooks already set up in Visual Studio Code, you can't use the same thing for .NET Interactive Notebooks. They're working on that in compatibility. So in the meantime, they created their own extension, .dib. You can use either one. So I don't have Python in my extensions list, so I can use either one. But if I did have Python in my extensions list, I would have to use that DIB extension just so that everything works while we're in preview. So here is a really long notebook. And this notebook is really cool because what it does is it allows me to just tell you the story of, hey, we have the new version 12 of the Azure SDK for .NET. Things have changed. Here's how they work. First, we're going to get Azure Storage Blobs from NuGet. And if I don't want to hit triangle next to everything, I can actually hit this double triangle to execute the entire notebook. I can add some using namespaces. My connection string, I'm going to use development storage. You'll see what I'm doing in a second. We're going to create a blob service client that connects to development storage, and we're going to get a blob container client for a container called images. Now, if you've never worked with the Azure SDK before, basically, until you actually do something, nothing happens. So I don't have the Azure emulator installed on this machine. Instead, I installed Azurite, which is the open source Azure Storage emulator. And the cool thing about Azurite is that it's the future. The old Azure Storage emulator, you're probably not going to want to use that anymore. And Azurite is available as an extension in Visual Studio Code if you don't want to install on your local machine. Let me show you how to use it. Going to hit F1. Going to go Azurite. I'm going to hit start. I can start all of it or just the blob service. Start blob service. There we go. I now have a development Azure blob storage server. So if I say create this container if it doesn't exist, it'll work just fine. One of the cool things about notebooks, you can skip around. So I'm going to enumerate all the blobs in a container. I don't have any. Even if I try to display them, nothing's going to happen. Since I don't have anything in there, I'm going to skip that whole download and blob for the container section and jump down to this upload and blob to a container. I have a file here called wallpaper.jpg. It's the same JPEG you see in my desktop background, just a lot lower resolution. I'm going to run it. I'm going to create a file stream. Did I forget using system.io? Using system.io. Let's try it again. There we go. And just showing you in real time how these notebooks work. I'm going to create a blob client. So while I have a file stream, so this is a string for wallpaper.jpg, I'm going to create a client for a new blob called background.jpg. Basically, the blob I'm going to have on Azure Storage is going to be called background.jpg. And then I'm going to start with that background blob client. And I'm going to call the upload async method, sending my stream in. Run it, and now that file is uploaded to Azure Storage. So if I go back and run this for each method again, there's my background.jpg file. So being able to jump around, experiment with it, run cells out of order again and again. I hope looking at this, you can see that this is going to completely transform documentation. This is going to transform the way we do, the way we learn. Now, try.net, which is the one I showed you when we did the in-browser tutorials for .net, it's almost ready. It's just one of those things where it's still only available privately to Microsoft, but with the intention, they've shared this on GitHub multiple times that they want to open it up eventually. They just need to stabilize it quite a bit. Notebooks can run on any Visual Studio Code Insiders build. So very low set of requirements. So if you have a group of colleagues and you're trying to teach them some new libraries, you can have them all download .NET Core 3.1, Visual Studio Code Insiders, and the Notebooks extension, and then share notebooks. I have notebooks on GitHub. I'm going to put a gist, I never know how to pronounce it, into the chat and just pop that into the chat of this exact storage notebook I just showed you. One last thing, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Basically, the GitHub page for .NET/interactive, links in the Q&A, is where you go if you have issues, you want to submit your own code through a pull request, you want to see the health of the project. If you want to just chat with other people using it, including the product team who's very active, you can go to gitter.im. It's just think of it like a Discord or a chat service, but tied to GitHub. You can log in with your GitHub account. And this will allow you to actually participate in the community. You can see we're actually talking about listing your .NET Core runtimes and how you might have 5.0 installed on your machine, but .NET Interactive Notebooks uses 3.1. And we're just talking through that scenario and even talking about an issue open with the F# version of .NET Interactive Notebooks. Yeah, they run F#. They can run HTML. They can run JavaScript. I'm going to put that link in the chat too. So there's a wide community of people who are using this. We're pretty excited. Again, really excited to share this with you. Hope this leads to lots of questions. And as this product moves into a published final state, hope to come back and show you what the final product looks like. But we're already using this in the classroom. We're already using this to teach new people Azure services on a daily basis. And we're already prototyping this in really cool tools, such as, and this one's not private, the public preview for GitHub Codespaces. We are switching to Visual Studio Code Insiders within a GitHub Codespace, and we're running .NET Notebooks. So somebody can just click on a repo, open a Visual Studio Code Insiders build with the .NET Interactive extension already installed and just run the notebook. So they can learn a new SDK or a new library, or even learn the basics of C# without having anything installed on their local machine. So again, this is what I think is the future, the way we demo code and the way we teach code. And it's just the beginning. The .NET Interactive team just got their feet off the ground and was able to do so much in this time. So again, thank you all for having me. I know it's a little late in some times. I was a little early in others, but really excited to do this. I know Rebecca has some survey and some housekeeping at the end. I'm going to be hanging out in the Q&A just in case anybody has any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sidney. Again, if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And in the interim, just to mention, the next event that Sidney will be presenting is on October 6th. And it's a first look at BICEP, a domain-specific language for Azure resources. And that will be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Western for the US. If you happen to be joining us from overseas, certainly check your time window and see if that aligns. If you're unable to make it, but you're still interested in this topic, do make sure that you are checking our YouTube channel, which we update regularly with the recordings, usually about 72 hours after the event has concluded. That applies to this evening's event as well, but definitely for the following event. So if you can't make it, you can always tune in at a later time. And if you have questions that come up based on the content, you can always feel free to send us a message through the page you registered on. If you came through on meetup.com, message us there. You can reach out directly to the Microsoft Reactor website. Don't hesitate. Definitely feel free to get in touch and pose those questions as they come up. We are encouraging the community here to learn and have continued interest and growth within the developers community. So if you have not been a part of our community in the past and you're tuning in for the first time now, definitely consider adding us on Twitter, joining up on your local meetup page, checking out some of the other Reactor meetup pages as well, in case you have maybe a unusual schedule for wherever you're joining us from. You're a night person, you're an early morning person, maybe some of the events we feature in other locations more locally, but on a virtual scale might work out for you. So definitely, look around at our other calendars, not just your local one. And then if you can, we ask that you just fill out the survey. The survey link I dropped in the comments just a little bit ago. Just click on that, enter the event code that's specific for this, which is 11742, and just let us know, is there content we haven't covered yet? Is there things that you've really enjoyed and you want us to cover again? If there's things you want us to expand on, we're here for you, providing free content through the Microsoft Reactor program. So at this point, Sidney, I have not seen any questions come through yet, and so I feel pretty comfortable with us wrapping it up. Again, if you have questions that arise later on based on this content, you check back in on the video and something occurs to you that you'd like to ask, join us on the next one. Come on October 6th and tune in for that as well. Ask a question then, or send us a message and we'll certainly relay it. And thank you again, Sidney, for this wonderful presentation. Let me just say, this is a wonderful series, covering interesting topics, and we look forward to hosting you once again.
Well, thanks everyone for having me. And again, look forward to seeing you all in the upcoming sessions.